Lori here. You're gonna see this sweatshirt and this outfit a lot. I am prepping all of my videos for January and February now because I'm about to enter the most craziest time of my life. So I want to have enough content for you guys on a daily and weekly basis, especially with all the recaps and preview posts for 2019. So you're gonna see this outfit probably a lot. It is currently new Christmas Eve, and we don't really have any plans. So while I have some hours, I decided to film all these videos for you. So the video today that I'm going to talk about is my most disappointing reads of 2018. Before I get into this video, I just want to put a caveat. If you like these books, that's awesome. They just did not connect with me for whatever reason. And yeah, I just wanted to share what books just did not capture my attention, which books I did not like. And yeah, so let's get into it. The first book I'm going to chat about is Rebel with a Cupcake. I got this book from Edelweiss, and I was put on a blog tour for it, so I had to read it in kind of a quick fashion. And I don't know what it was with this book, but I just did not feel connected to the characters. I know it dealt with like feminist issues and was about this girl who was slightly overweight, and she just kept on not connecting to her schoolmates, and I really wanted a book like Moxie that would make me like excited about life and to go out and get it, and I just wasn't there. I didn't feel connected to the characters. I felt like the tension for the story just wasn't compelling to read. I had a hard time picking it back up. I think I gave it like 3 stars, but it really was not my favorite, and I struggled to get through it. I struggled to finish it, and I rarely ever DNF books. It doesn't happen very often. But it wasn't a compelling read. And I think if the character was like a little bit more likable, I've said this before, I really struggle sometimes with unlikable narrators. She definitely was that to me, and I just felt like if she was a little bit more likable or I was a little bit more connected to her, I probably would have felt a little bit more engaged in the story. But I just didn't. I wasn't connected to her. I felt very, very like out of sorts, and I just wasn't compelled to finish. There wasn't enough tension in the story to compel me to keep reading it. So that's one of my most disappointing reads of the year, Rebel with a Cupcake. The next book I'm going to chat about is a book that I contemplated not putting on this list, but as I've looked over everything that I read this year, this book just did not measure up. And it's going to be shocking because at the start of the year, I actually said I liked it. But looking back on it, I don't think I liked it as much as I said that I did. And that's The Hazelwood by Melissa Alpert. Thing about this book is I was so excited for it. I actually got 2 boxes with it. I really wanted to like it. And I love fairy tale retellings. I just do, but I just really struggled to connect to the characters in this book. And the writing style was just very I don't even know how to describe it. It was very hard to connect to it. Like I just had a very hard time connecting to it. So I really struggled with the writing style, and I really struggled with the narrator. I just could not connect with her. But basically this book is about a girl, and she's basically living with her mother, and they don't have the best relationship, and she's kind of like, it comes down the book that she's basically on the run with her mother, and they're running from something. When it's revealed that her grandmother dies, they find out that her grandmother like wrote these, like kind of like grim fairy tales. But when her mother goes missing, she has to go on an adventure to get her mother back. It's basically like a really, really premise of the book. But it's a very dark and eerie story, and the main character I struggled to connect with like a lot. And the writing style was just not one that I connected to. But I really did like what happened. I thought it was really interesting. I just was not compelled to read it. I think the writing style definitely turned me off. And I like the side characters more than the lead characters. So, and I've said this a couple of times, I really think that like having the side characters are part of the story a little bit more, especially the boy that she was working with. I really would have liked that a little bit more. I said this last year about the cruelty. Like, I like that book. I would have liked it more if the boy was involved, just because I felt more connected to him than the lead character. So I definitely am going to read book 2. I probably won't buy it. I'll probably get it from the library or a friend. But yeah, it just, the writing style and the unlikable narrator really turned me off of this read, but not enough that I won't read book 2. So take that for what it's worth. The next book I'm going to chat about in this video is Daughter of a Burning City by Amanda Foody. again, this was another book that I was super excited for. I got it at BookCon 2 years ago, and I was really excited to read it, and I just never got around to reading it. And when Ace of Shades was coming out, I decided, oh, I should probably read these because they're in publication order. And I struggled with this book. Kind of like Hazelwood, I just struggled with the writing style. It just did not capture my attention. And because of the writing style just was not capturing me, it affected how I was like connected to the characters. Like I just didn't feel emotionally connected to them. And basically the premise of this book is that she's working at like a circus, and her power is she can create illusions. But she can create illusions, and all of a sudden people start murdering her illusions. So she has to try to solve that mystery about why all her illusions are being murdered and why. And I just struggle to see I just struggle to feel connected to any of the characters. Most of the characters I understand because they're just illusions, but I should have felt like emotionally connected, and I just did not feel that. I just did not feel emotionally connected. The writing style had me really disconnected from all the characters. The mystery was like lackluster, and I think I probably called the mystery by the end of the book. It just was not a compelling read. There was no tension, and I just was not captured by the writing style. That does not mean that I'm not excited to read Born by Amanda Foody in the future. I have Ace of Shades on my shelves, and I really want to get to King of Fools. So hopefully I will have a better experience with those books than I did with this book. But I will be sure to let you guys know in the future if that occurs. Hopefully I will get to them in 2019. The next book that I'm going to chat about is the first ever Sarah Dessen book that I read, and that is Keeping the Moon. I have said this before, I normally like to read authors' books in publication order because I like to see how their writing has increased, or like if there's any connections between their novels. It's normally how I like to read books. So Sarah Dessen has a big backlist, and I actually own a bunch of her books, but I was just trying to read them as close to publication order as I can. This book just did not wow me, and I know it's her first ever book that she's ever written, but I struggled to feel connected to the characters, and I normally with like contemporary books, I fly through them. This book was only like 200 pages. Like 250 pages. I just could not feel connected to the characters. The romance was like really like left field and like was just not compelling, I would say. And I normally really like friendship stories, but this friendship story was just really like out of left field. And I felt like the relationship with her mom was weird. It was a weird book. It just was not my favorite. I think I probably gave it like 3 stars. It probably was more like a 2.5-star read for me. I just was not compelled to read it. It's a super short book too. I think it's like 250, maybe 275 pages. Should not have taken me that long to read it. I just could not feel connected to the characters like at all. So hopeful in the future when I read more Sarah Dessen, I will feel more connected to her as an author and her characters, but this book just did not do it for me. The last book I'm going to chat about in this video will be a little bit surprising, but it's because I really did like the book. I just struggled with the plot twist at the end, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the book I'm going to talk about is Grace and Fury by Tracy Bagnett. I did get this book from BEA, and I read it over the summer. And I have to admit, I thought at the start of it, I thought it was like a really good book. I liked how it was like basically a mix between Selection and Hunger Games. Like you're either sent to be like basically a bride of the king, or you're sent to be like a maid or something. That's like the 2 roles that you have, and these 2 sisters were very set on their paths. One was very convinced that she was going to be a Grace, and one was very convinced that she was not going to be a Grace. But when unexpectedly their role gets swapped, their lives kind of take a turn. And I thought that it was a really cool mix of those 2 worlds. I loved the political intrigue. I loved the elements of that were like Hunger Games style. Like I thought that was really interesting. But the ending. I have a massive plot twist issue that I don't like in books. And I'm not going to tell you guys what series basically the same twist occurs because it's going to spoil what it is. But the big plot twist at the end literally happened in like 5 other books I've read, and I just hate that. It's just not unique and it's not different. And I literally knocked down like a point. Like it was probably like a 4-star read. It got to be a 3-star read just because of the plot twist and how predictable it was. And I don't know, it just did not impress me. Like I was like, oh my god, they're not gonna do this. Oh my god, they're gonna do this, and then they did it. And I was like, oh, So I'm holding off my judgment. I will definitely be reading book 2 and see how this plot twist affects the story and if it was really like needed. So I'm gonna hold off my opinion on that, but the plot twist in this really made me not like the book. And I read back to back with it Rule, which I really liked, so maybe that was another reason that I just did not like this book as much. But overall, that is my thoughts on Grace and Fury. So these are my most disappointing reads of 2018. Let me know in the comments what are some of your disappointing reads of 2018, if we have any overlapping non-favorites. And I will talk to you guys later for another video. Bye!